Hey guys, and welcome back to the fantasy line. We got a lot to cover today, but to get it started off, I lost a bet. If you tuned in 2 episodes ago, Jerome Ford outscored Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper let me down. So I got to eat this jalapeno. So we're just gonna
The
get it
whole
started off,
jalapeno.
and they're gonna recap the game.
Keep going.
Yeah, I see that you swallow it too. Gotta get.
Eat that whole thing, boy. Do
Can't
not
spit
spit
it
it
out.
out.
You can't spit it out.
You do not spit it out. Oh my god. Oh my god. Welcome to the fantasy line, guys. we are
Welcome.
we are streaming daily Tuesdays and Fridays, and this is just a glimpse of some of our content. Uh,
That's awesome. That is great.
That is a great. Alex will probably return sometime, but hey, man, give it up for Alex, man. Good sport, losing that bet. We're gonna be moving on to the Thursday night game, kicking off week 3 tonight. Looking at the Jets Patriots, this game, man, was quite boring. I didn't watch the whole game. I watched a little bit of it because I knew this game was gonna be a bad game. Jets end up destroying the Patriots 24-3. And, coming into this game, the Jets defense is elite, and I think we just got confirmed how good they actually are. Holding Jacoby Brissett to 98 passing yards and only holding this, team to like 130 yards total. That's quite elite numbers there. Obviously, we saw, the Jets offense roll. Everyone you started pretty much did good. Aaron Rodgers, if you started him, he had like 27 points. Brees Hall coming out, 16 for 54 and a touchdown, a couple receptions, getting you 18 PPR points. Garrett Wilson coming through with the touchdown. He had 9 targets, but the yardage wasn't there, only 33 yards. But yeah, I mean, overall, this game was just quite the snooze fest. There's not a whole lot of takeaways from this game. I will say that on the Patriots side, Demario Douglas, someone that has a little bit of sleeper value coming into the year. He had 9 targets in this game. He could be a nice little pickup moving forward. But other than that, no big takeaways from this game. Ramondre Stevenson had negative points. Isaiah, what are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I think the Jets knew where the offense runs through for the Patriots, and it's Ramondre Stevenson. Like that's basically their focal point of their offense at this point. Like Jacoby just said, can't really get it done, and so the Jets knew that. So their defense was just on the run game the entire game for the most part. And I think the Jets are back. I think Aaron Rodgers is back. Aaron Rodgers looked good. He looked mobile. He looked like, kind of his old Aaron Rodgers self. The touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson was a pretty sick throw. So I think this Jets offense is slowly coming alive. I think him and Garrett Wilson are going to get, better together. They had this last offseason as well. But I think they're, slowly going to start creating more fantasy points than what they have been. I do think, though, that Christian Gonzalez, the corner for the Patriots, is pretty good. We saw him, Jamar Chase, week 1, locked him up. I know last week, I don't really know who he was on last week, where the DK and Jackson Smith and Jigba lit him up, but we've seen Christian Gonzalez follow like Chase around, and he was following Garrett Wilson around, and he's a pretty good lockdown corner. So I think that's kind of affected Garrett Wilson, but I think Garrett Wilson kind of more alive than how he has been this past couple of games.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Alex is back on the screen here. We're gonna give him a second to recover. He looks like he is on his deathbed. So I will say another note on this game. Tyler Conklin going 5 for 6 for 93 yards. Just a honestly surprising game. We saw him over the middle of the field for Aaron Rodgers. And I mean, since tight ends are so volatile this year, Tyler Conklin could be someone to look at I don't have the snap percentage for this game, but I'm gonna imagine he was on the field for 90+% of the snaps, which he has been playing in week 1 and week 2, which is things you like to see from a tight end. When it comes to fantasy relevance, maybe he could be a spot start week to week, but we're gonna have to see more from this Jets offense in order to really determine if we're wanting to start Tyler Conklin moving forward. And yeah, man, this game, like I was saying before, no big takeaways. Jets defense is elite, and they shut down the Patriots. The Patriots didn't do a single thing in this game.
Yeah, I think another good pickup, like you said, like Pop Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
I think Breland Allen, he could be a good pickup if you are struggling right now with injuries. He didn't have the best game. I mean, he had 11 rushes. 11 rushes is actually pretty good. 11 rushes for 55 yards and 3 catches for 13 yards in total. He had 68 yards. He had 9 fantasy points. That right there, I think he pretty soon is going to be like pickup. I think he's pickup worthy now. If you have a bench spot available, like, you can drop someone and pick him up. I think he's worth the pickup at this point, especially if, Breece Hall goes down. I think they trust Allen a lot. Allen looks good out there too. Allen doesn't look like he's 20 years old. He's been in the league for at least a couple of years. So I think he could be a good pickup if you're kind of short on running back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
it was a great game.
Welcome back, Alex.
Anyways, I severely underrated jalapenos, but
I knew that was gonna happen too. I've ate a jalapeno. Jalapenos are spicy, bro.
I literally drank a half gallon of milk.
But anyways,
I was telling you to get that milk.
Going back to Braylon Allen, youngest player in NFL history to score a touchdown, let alone 2 touchdowns last week in the game against Tennessee. So yeah, I think he's going to be he's honestly a great pickup. When we talk about handcuffs, he could be the most elite handcuff in the game right now, other than Jordan Mason, but he's a starter right now. So yeah, I like Braylon Allen as a sneaky pickup. He averaged 5 yards a carry in this game, which is great numbers for a rookie. But yeah, man, I think that's enough with the Pats and Jets game. So we're going to be moving on to a new segment that we are introducing to the fantasy line, which we're going to call Believe or Leave. So these are going to be players that we are either believing in them to continue, or if they don't do it, we're leaving. We are dropping ship and we're saying no, like this is their week. They're going to break out or they're going to continue what they're doing. So we're starting over with Alex's first Believe or Leave player. Alex, who you got?
Sorry, but not talking the best. My lips are on absolute fire right now. Man of my word. I did it. It took one episode to have
I respect you for that.
All right, my Believe or Leave player. We're gonna start off with Ja'Marr Chase. He's going up against Washington this week, and what we saw with what Neighbors just did with them. I think this is if Chase doesn't have a good game, I think it's time to get some value out of him and try to sell him if you can. I think this is the only chance. I mean, Washington is an absolutely horrible defense, and Chase did not look good. I'm not sure if T. Higgins is going to be back, but he was practicing, so I think he should come back this week. And I think this is going to be a big Bengals offense bounce back this week after going 0-2. What do you guys think on that?
I would be shocked if Ja'Marr Chase is not a top 5 receiver this week. We saw Malik Neighbors have 18 targets, 130 yards, and 12 receptions against this team. And in the week before that, we saw Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both be top 10 wide receivers. So I think there's literally no way that the Bengals don't light up this defense. I'm expecting 350 yards from Joe Burrow. And honestly, if I don't see that, I'd low-key be concerned because that means that Joe Burrow's not right. We saw last year Joe Burrow dealing with that calf injury all year long. Ended up going on IR, being out for the season. So this is going to be a big test to the Bengals just to see if they're right, man, because we haven't seen it yet this year. So I'm really looking to see just an explosion across all fantasy aspects in this game. So.
Yeah, I think Ja'Marr Chase has to have a good game where people are going to be like, what? He is not worth that $35 million that he wants whatsoever. I think he has to start showing that he's worth that $35 million if he wants that $35 million. And this would be the game to do it, especially after last game's whatever went wrong with him where he was upset about the tackle that was made on him. Basically cost his team the game in a way. So I feel like he has to have a bounce back game. And I do believe that T. Higgins is back. I know he practiced; he was limited at practice. So I think he is trending towards playing this week. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna affect more Jamar Chase. I mean, T. Higgins has been at practice. He was at training camp most training camp days. So I mean, Joe Burrow might target him more than Chase, but he might get a little bit more work than his first game back. But I think Chase has to go off, or people are just going to be. It's going to be so depressing, wasting a top 5 pick on him, top 10 pick on him, and him just not be performing whatsoever.
Yeah.
So just a question: rest of the season, would you guys rather have Nico Collins or Jamar Chase?
With my belief in this blow-up game happening and the Bengals getting right, I'm going to go Jamar Chase. We've seen this a lot of times with the Bengals. They start really slow. But, they were in the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row. They made the Super Bowl. I still believe in this team. So I'm going to go Jamar Chase. But not to say anything about Nico Collins. I think Nico Collins is an easily top 10, top 7 wide receiver moving forward.
Yeah, I would lean towards. Honestly, I'm in the middle. I'd probably go towards Nico right now. I don't know. I think Jamar Chase can explode. I think I'd lean towards Nico right now because he just has the more consistent QB play from Stroud, and his offense seems to be rolling right now. And they just had the first 2 games where they played the Colts and the Bears, but I think Nico is the number 1 guy. I mean, Jamar Chase is the number 1 guy for Burrow, but I think Nico is like the focal point in the receiving game for that team. So I think Nico is going to be more consistent than Chase. I think I'll say that. I think Nico is going to be more consistent, and then Chase is going to have more of those like down and like those boom and down weeks.
Yeah.
I would personally go Nico. I mean, we've seen 2 back-to-back 100-yard games. He's also had 8 targets week 1, comes out have 10 targets week 2. Didn't know what this offense was going to do going into the season, adding with the addition of Stephon Diggs. They got Tank Dell and everyone. But, yeah, he's just clearly showed his dominance in that offense. And I think in this point in the year, I would rather have Nico Collins going forward. So are we believing in Jamar Chase? I'm personally believing in Jamar Chase.
I am believing in Jamar Chase.
I am believing in Jamar Chase until after this week. If he doesn't do anything after this week, then
that's where the leap comes in.
Yeah.
That's where the leap comes in.
The jalapeno started to cool down, but my stomach's a little messed up. So going on to Isaiah's believe or leave player.
Mine is Sam Laporta. He has kind of started off the season slow, especially where people have drafted him. He was going as a tight end 1 or 2 off the board. Travis Kelce and him are kind of like interchangeable. He's not really holding his value, I would say, currently. The first week he had 8 fantasy points, which isn't bad for a tight end. You don't expect, tight ends to be that's kind of just average for a tight end. And last week he had 3. I expect more from him, especially if you draft him as a tight end 1. Like he should be, I would say he has to be averaging more than 10 points. I don't think he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. The offense really doesn't seem to be going at him. It's kind of just a weird, I don't know what really the offense is doing, but just Sam Laporta only having 11 fantasy points going into week 2, especially being drafted as a tight end 1, does not make you feel good as a fantasy owner if you own him in fantasy whatsoever. I do see a little upside coming into this week, though. They play the Cardinals, and this should be a very high-scoring game. Both teams can put up numbers quickly, and I do see Sam Laporta stepping up his game, hopefully stepping up this game, or I will be leaving. What do you guys think about Sam Laporta?
Alex, do you want to take this, or do you want me to go?
Oh, you can go first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm a big Sam Laporta guy. Got him in a couple dynasty leagues. But from what we've seen is pretty alarming. I will say that Jameson Williams collecting 20 targets over the course of 2 games is kind of knocking on Sam Laporta because that just takes away targets from Sam Laporta. Like we saw last year, it was mostly just, Laporta and Amon-Ra in the passing game with Gibbs out the backfield. And now adding Jameson Williams as that second element of this offense, stretching the field and getting those deep crossers could knock on Laporta's game just a little bit. But, he's playing 80, 90% of the snaps. He has 8 targets through the first 2 games, which is we don't want to see that. I'm not as bought in as Isaiah might be to Laporta, just because I'm a big Jameson Williams guy. But I think that he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to be the tight end 1. I'd rather have McBride. I think McBride's moving forward is easily the tight end 1. But Laporta, tight end 2, tight end 3, yeah, that's obviously his repertoire. But moving forward, I don't know, man. I want to see it. Like I was saying, I want to see it this week. Otherwise, I'm leaving.
Yeah, me personally, I think Sam Laporta is the opposite of a jalapeno. He's dry. I think we all went in this year expecting whatever the opposite of spicy is, but we all went in this year expecting a regression because of those touchdowns. And I think this is what he's gonna do. I think he's probably a 8 to 10 point per game, especially with we just seen Dan Campbell. They're doing the same thing with the running backs. Montgomery's getting his touches, Gibbs getting his touches, but Laporta's not getting his touches. And Laporta's touches from last year are going to Jameson Williams this year. So I think this is a Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra Brown led offense this year. And I think Laporta took the backseat. He took the J-Mo role last year. So yeah, I personally am leaving Laporta. Question: would you guys rather have rest of the season Brock Bowers, George Kittle, or Sam Laporta?
Brock Bowers.
I was just about to say probably Brock Bowers with the George Kittle injury news, and just Brock Bowers is looking amazing, man. As a fellow Raiders fan, I'm so hyped about Brock Bowers, man. He's just looking great. So
Yeah, I agree. I think Laporta right now is kind of like playing how George Kittle is. I'm not saying like he is George Kittle, but George Kittle has those down weeks. But I do think like Sam Laporta could have those like exploding weeks where he goes off for, 20, 15 points, like how Kittle can do. But, sometimes you have to like, kind of ride or die with him where he's going to have those down weeks and he's going to have those up weeks. I think right now he's just been kind of down. On to the next player, Joe. Who you
all
got?
Right. Another tight end, man. This was, if you guys watch episode 1, this was my most drafted player, and it's Dalton Kincaid. And there's a little stat for you guys. There have only been 7 tight ends in the entire NFL to reach 10 plus targets. And that's only 5 targets a game. So there's been 2 weeks, only 7 tight ends have reached 10 targets, and only 2 of those 7 were drafted within the top 7, if that makes sense. So 2 of the top 7 tight ends drafted have only reached 10 targets. And that's Kittle and that's McBride. As I mentioned before, I think McBride is that dude. So I think that's just speaks to how this tight end situation is right now. And I 100% still believe in Dalton Kincaid to be Josh Allen's guy. There have been many negative game scripts for the passing game. Like week 2, for example, they got Kincaid involved early, as we mentioned in the podcast a week ago. We saw Kincaid getting those early targets from Josh Allen. So we saw that they wanted to get him going, but it just became such a negative game script for offense for the Bills that they just relied heavily on that run game and defense. And I think moving forward, this is not going to be a recipe this recipe could work, but they're going to be in more pass heavy game scripts. And that means Dalton Kincaid is going to eat. So I'm still believing in Kincaid. And yeah, man, I'm believing in him. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I believe in Kincaid. Like Josh Allen's barely thrown the ball. I think ran the most routes on his team or close to it. Like he ran a lot of routes last game versus the Dolphins. It was just they kind of blew him out. I think once they start getting, I know like the Cardinals game was close, but Josh, whatever the Bills were doing, it was working, and there was no need to throw it to Dalton Kincaid. But I do think Kincaid is. I see him picking it up this. Not this. He could pick it up this week, or picking up through the rest of the season. I think Dalton Kincaid is a good tight end.
Yeah, I think Kincaid's hard. Just because we've seen how the Bills want to play, and I mean, he looked better at the start of last year than this year. I think I would still believe in Dalton Kincaid. I would trade like a Pat Freiermuth for Kincaid, or like a Pat Freiermuth and Najee Harris for Kincaid. I still think Kincaid will be good. I feel like it might take a little while to get him going just with this whole new Bills passing offense because last year they had Diggs take up all the defense and then Kincaid was the number 2. But this year Kincaid's number 1, so they're looking to double Kincaid more. So once Kincaid and Josh Allen and I don't know the Bills offense coordinator, but once they figure that out, I think Kincaid is going to have a bigger role.
Yeah, 100%. And, coming up this week against Jacksonville, no tight ends have played good, so we don't really know. I mean, Jacksonville has Aluakon, who is a great linebacker, but he's not a coverage linebacker. He's more of just a, run-stopping linebacker. So I could see Kincaid having a solid game this week, and then Baltimore then the week after that. That could be a high-scoring game. 100% believing in Kincaid. And if something happens over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be pretty alarmed. Anyways, moving on to Alex's second believe or leave player.
I'm moving on to Garrett Wilson. This is a leave player. He just played tonight. Through the first 3 weeks of the fantasy season, Allen Lazard has outscored Garrett Wilson by 11 points. I think it's 43 to 35 or 34. And just this is not what you want on your first round draft pick. I mean, he went against the Patriots and he's just done all right so far, putting up 10 and 12 points. But that's not what you're expecting from a first round draft pick, especially with an Aaron Rodgers led offense. And what we saw him do with Devontae Adams. It's not the same. It's clearly not the same. Adams was a target hog. He got everything on the Packers. But in this offense, there's just so much different weapons. We see him using the run game a lot, Breece Hall and Bijan with the checkdowns. And we're seeing Allen Lazard get involved. Tonight we saw Mike Williams get involved. So Aaron Rodgers really spreading the ball out here. I think Garrett Wilson's still the wide receiver 1 in this offense. But the volume just has not been there for Garrett Wilson through 3 weeks. What do you guys think about Garrett Wilson?
I don't hate this take. I will say that I low-key sneakily like buying Garrett Wilson. I was considering him as a buy in our next segment, but I mean, he's a great receiver. He's super talented. If you watch him on the field, he just looks great. I just want to see more from him. Like, he's not living up to that first-round draft price. I think he can. Live up to that first-round draft price. But I agree that if you are a Garrett Wilson owner, personally, I'm holding and just waiting. But if someone's going to offer you top end for Garrett Wilson, still believing, I'm going to take that. I'm going to sell him. Like, if someone's going to offer you A.J. Brown, I take A.J. Brown over Garrett Wilson, even with A.J. Brown being hurt. I can see him being good, but I would sell if an opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, I agree with Joe on him being a possible buy. I know he had 14 fantasy points this week. He had 9 targets. Like I said earlier, Christian Gonzalez was kind of following him around, and Christian Gonzalez is a pretty good corner. So I feel like that, kind of doesn't help him out. But I think Garrett Wilson could be a solid buy. Garrett Wilson's put up numbers with Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and Mike White. So I'm not too worried about Aaron Rodgers. I'm not too worried about them figuring it out, which I feel like they are going to figure it out pretty soon. And I think Garrett Wilson's going to be more – he can be more consistent. I think he's going to be more, average 15, 16 fantasy points a game, which, that if he does that, I would live with that more than he's been averaging, 12. So I think I do see him – I do believe in Garrett Wilson.
I agree. I'm believing as well in Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I'm leaving Garrett Wilson. I just don't think he's returning on that first round draft price and our expectations we were all expecting going this year. He's a phenomenal player. But Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he just looked great feeding everyone the ball in that offense today. Personally, I'm leaving Garrett Wilson. I mean, would you guys rather have Garrett Wilson or Jamar Chase rest of the season?
Oh, that's an easy Jamar Chase. I feel like that's easy.
Okay. Yeah, I would rather have Jamar Chase too, just because they've been performing the same so far. Okay, moving on to Isaiah's believe or leave player.
So my believe or leave player is Patrick Mahomes. I had high expectations of him coming into the season, especially with them adding Worthy and Rice's second year. I mean, Marquise Brown should have been playing there, but he's not been playing well. He has 3 interceptions already in the first 2 weeks. And I expect him to bounce back. Pacheco is out, and they seem like a very run heavy kind of offense where they didn't really want to I don't know, they're kind of like slowing down the game. And I feel like now since Pacheco's out, they have Steele there. Steele is undrafted player. He fumbled last game. They have Pirine. Pirine couldn't even stay on the Broncos, so that kind of shows how good Pirine is. And then Kareem Hunt, they just signed. We don't know how he's going to do in this offense, but I do see Mahomes. I do believe in Mahomes bouncing back, especially with Pacheco gone. There's going to be probably a more pass-heavy offense, and I see Travis Kelce getting more involved. I know he's been down too. I think this whole receiving offense gets a boost this next week, especially they play the Falcons this week. The over-under is 46.5 points. Pretty high-scoring game. I can see and it's Monday night and our Sunday night game. And I feel like every time Patrick Mahomes does pretty good on Sunday night games. So I do see, Mahomes having a bounce-back game, and I am believing in him. What do you guys think?
I agree. I believe in Patrick Mahomes. I would say that if Pacheco's not hurt and Pacheco didn't go down, I'm probably not believing in Patrick Mahomes. But just because this offense is so heavily now going to involve the passing game, I think Mahomes is going to be, that elite option at quarterback, going back to his elite fantasy days. And we saw last year, the Chiefs at the end of the year were what they were doing at the beginning of this year, and they were run and they were play defense and they were control the game. But now I think moving forward, I think they're going to be more, explosion, deep plays to Worthy, Rice, and yeah, man, I'm a believer in Patrick Mahomes as well.
I'm mixed about it. I think Carson Steele is an Isaiah Pacheco, just pretty much he runs like his life depends on it. You saw a little bit of the preseason of just what he did. He had, I think, like 11 carries for 87 yards against the Jags in the preseason game. So I think he's going to be a perfect replacement. I think he's going to do exactly what Isaiah Pacheco does. And then I don't think he's going to get involvement in the receiving work. I think we're going to see more Samaje Perine come in. But I do think Patrick Mahomes will do better than what he's done so far. I think this also relates to, I think Kelce's going to be better, hopefully, because Kelce has not been doing good through the first 2 weeks, and we haven't seen that target volume or anything. But Kelce has been on the field for around, I think, 90% of the snaps through the first 2 weeks. So that's good news for Kelce. But, yeah, I believe in Patrick Mahomes.
Yep, I think we're all in agreement that we're all believing in Mahomes. So we're going to be moving on to my final believer leave player of this segment, and this is going to be a shocker, but I'm believing in Amari Cooper. I think that targets are earned in the NFL. You don't just get, like Amari Cooper has 17 targets. You don't just get 17 targets if you're not a good player. And Amari Cooper coming through 2 weeks, 17 targets. He's playing over 90% of the snaps in both of these games. And I just believe in his talent, man. I think talent wins at the end of the day. And Deshaun Watson looks like a trash can out there, but I think that this is going to take time to gel. Deshaun Watson has not played a lot of NFL over the last 4 years. I think he just needs time, and Amari Cooper just needs time. I don't see Cooper being a league winner. I don't see Cooper dropping 1,500 yards like Alex's hot take, but I see Cooper being a reliable wide receiver for your team moving forward, getting targets and getting receptions. Like, we saw him drop 2 touchdowns in back-to-back games, and I just think that he's gonna start putting it on and turning into just a solid wide receiver that we've seen over his whole career, honestly. Like, I don't think this is where it stops for Amari Cooper. I'm believing. What do you guys think?
You had me on the first half, but you started losing me in the second half with he's not going to have 1,500 yards. Amari Cooper's on pace to have over 150 targets this year. I was happy when you said his name because I think it's true what you said. Targets are earned. I mean, we've seen he's been in the league for 7+ years. And yeah, he's just been struggling with catching the ball. I think he will get better, though. I think he will start pulling down some receptions, especially going against the Giants this week. I think this is an ideal matchup, just like the same position that Chase is in this week going against Washington. I think we need to see some from both these receivers. But yeah, I am believing in Amari Cooper. He was my hot take. And I think he might not have 150 receptions, but he's going to have 150+ targets.
Yeah, I'm more leaving Amari Cooper. I don't have anything really invested into him. I don't really think he's good. I think personally though he's checked out of this team completely. Like he again, like I said this earlier, I said this in the last episode that I think that he doesn't want to be in the Browns. Just plain and simple. I think he's kind of like this town is poop. And he wants to leave the Browns. So I think he could I don't know. I'd say believe in him just because of the targets. Like again, if he's earning these targets, but I think he's personally checked out, and I feel like we kind of have to like temper expectations on Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I think Amari Cooper's going to check out his way into my starting lineup this week. I think it's a boom week this week. I think we might see 200 plus yards this week, but
we shall see, man. But targets are earned, so he's been earning them. But anyways, moving on to our next segment of this episode, we're looking at some buys. These are gonna be players we're looking to buy this week, heading into week 3. Players we think that we could either buy low or buy at their current value. Starting off with Alex's first buy.
I'm buying the hype on Tony Pollard. He has been the fantasy surprise so far. I would say putting up 18 and 15. We thought he was going to the Titans to just die, but it doesn't seem that way. Going up against the Packers this week, it's just a phenomenal matchup. We just saw what Jonathan Taylor did to them, putting up 100 rushing yards. And yeah, I think he's just a great buy this week. I think if someone's a little worried, maybe he's going to start going down. I mean, he's getting the targets, he's getting the volume. He's outplaying Tajay Spears 70% to 30%. So he's a clear dominant back in this backfield. And I think the Titans offense will get better as the year goes on with Will Levis. So yeah, I'm buying Tony Pollard. Some trade scenarios, I would trade for Tony Pollard. I would trade DJ Moore straight up for Tony Pollard. I would trade Derrick Henry straight up for Tony Pollard. And I would trade Najee Harris plus Demarcus Robinson for Tony Pollard. What do you guys think about that?
I like the Tony Pollard buy. Tajay Spears is questionable as well. He logged a limited practice today, and he's not playing a whole lot. He's only playing 45% of the snaps week 1, 33% of the snaps week 2. So this is Tony Pollard's backfield. We also don't want to see Tony Pollard get all the work. We want to see him get 60 to 70% of the work, which is the perfect range for a player like Tony Pollard. So when it comes to your sell options for Tony Pollard, I agree with everyone except for Derrick Henry. I just think that for what we have right now, I think Derrick Henry is much more of a safer option. And I like Derrick Henry, man. I think he's going to score double-digit touchdowns easily. And I think that this offensive line, although it sucks, they're eventually going to get it together. And this Ravens will figure it out. And in the long run, even right now, Derrick Henry is outproducing I believe I might be mistaken, but I believe Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard are very, very close when it comes to fantasy points. And I'm still taking Derrick Henry over Tony Pollard, but I agree on all your other sells. I'm selling DJ Moore and obviously Najee plus a little piece there. So yeah, I agree with the buy. Isaiah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with the buy. I wanted Tony Pollard. I could not get him anywhere in my leagues, but I was a big fan of Tony Pollard coming into this offseason, and I feel like he is performing. I would definitely say he's a buy. He's a buy for me.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously my buy. Moving on to Isaiah's.
So mine's a little different. Most people have been saying sell this guy. I'm going with Kyren Williams. I understand it's been a hard couple of weeks, but I feel like the Rams offense is going to kind of get back. I know it's going to be 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, they have a bye. They have an early bye week 6. And at that point, I mean, Cup's not going on IR, so Cup could play this week. I don't think he's going to play this week, but Cup could be back next week. A couple of they have 5 offensive linemen on IR. A couple of them could come back after the bye week. Puka could come back after the bye week. I know it's kind of spread out, kind of all over the place, but I feel like right now, where this Rams offense does not look good whatsoever, I think Kyren Williams is a good buy. He's going to get a majority of the receiving work. Last season, when Kupp wasn't on the team, when Kupp was on IR, Kyren he was averaging like 6 targets a game. when Cup wasn't there. Now Cup and Puka are both gone. They have, DeMarcus Robinson there. They have Whittington there. They have Tutu Atwell there. They have Parkinson's there. I think that they're going to try to get Kyron Williams involved a lot in the pass game, whether if it's like screens or little like dump off plays, just like designed for him to like create, time for him just to go. Players that I think, you can possibly, I would say Brian Robinson. I don't know how people are. Brian Robinson last 2 games have been pretty well. I think trading is just depends on what you need for your team. If you need a receiver, I would say you need someone like Stephon Diggs. If you like Stephon Diggs, Rashee Rice might be a little push for it. Pickens could be another good person. I think it just really just depends on what your team needs, especially with all these injuries going on right now. What do you guys think about Kyron Williams?
I think that I agree with your buy just because he is going to catch so many passes. I don't think he's going to be. I think he's going to go 15 carries for 30 yards just because how bad this offensive line is. That might be a touchdown, but I think that the reason he's going to be valuable moving forward is because he's going to be like prime Austin Eckler. He is going to catch every single pass out of this backfield. He's playing 90% of the snaps. I think he's really just going to come down with 7-8 targets, 6-7 receptions for 80 yards. Just putting up receiver numbers, honestly. So yeah, I agree with the buy. And moving forward, he could be better with this team getting healthy. So overall, he's a good player, and he hasn't even been playing bad. He's averaging like 15 points a game right now. So,
me personally, I'm not that high on Kyron now that Puka and Cooper Kupp are out. So I would probably sorry, this whole video. I'd probably be selling him right now.
All right. Well, Alex looks like lots of analysis there from Alex. We love to hear that. Lots of stats and just great.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my mouth is just burning. But, yeah, I would
there from Alex.
I would be selling Kyron. I mean, it just depends on what we can get out of him. But yeah.
Alex is still recovering from this jalapeno.
Bro's not serious.
But yeah, man, looks like two of us are on agreement. Alex is just thinking about jalapenos right now. So looking at my buy, it's going to be George Pickens. We have not talked about George Pickens on this podcast, I feel like, ever. And I mean, to be fair, he hasn't done anything this year, but I think he could be a sneaky buy heading into week 3. We saw Justin Fields support DJ Moore as that wide receiver 1 last year. He was a wide receiver 6 in PPR formats last year, DJ Moore. And we saw Justin Fields was named the starter moving forward. He's 2-0 as a starter. And I just think that, kind of like Dalton Kincaid, the Steelers have been in negative game scripts where they don't really have to throw the ball. Obviously, their defense is elite. And I think that George Pickens, although he's going to be really, really streaky, I think he could be in for some boom weeks. We saw DJ Moore last year have that 1 week where he had like 70 points in PPR formats. So I think George Pickens, he's talented enough to do that. And I think he could be a buy heading into week 3. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I think George Pickens was one of my buy candidates I was thinking about doing. I think George Pickens is going to play a lot better, especially going on throughout the season. I think George Pickens is going to be better.
Yeah. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think George Pickens, I think he's a buy. I mean, I think he would be better with Russell Wilson back there. Can you stop typing a lot? But I think, yeah, I'm sorry. I think George Pickens improves if Russell Wilson plays, and I think Russell Wilson eventually will take over this quarterback room. But the big thing with Mike Tomlin is do you take out a winning Justin Fields? They haven't been the nicest wins, but he's 2-0. So I think as of now, Justin Fields going to be starting. But I think if the Steelers start to go lose a couple games, I think they're going to put in Russ, and I think that's going to help George Pickens. And ultimately, I mean, we saw George Pickens' aura going into the draft. We know he was capable of. We've seen his catches. I think he's a good buy. I think he's just a talented receiver, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with the George Pickens takes there. Obviously, he's my buy. So, Moving over to our next segment, we're going to be looking at some sells. So obviously we covered buys. Now we're going to be looking at players we think are not going to be performing as well as they are right now. And we're either going to be selling high or just selling for the value they're at right now. Starting off with Alex's first sell heading into week 3.
My first sell, I know he's been a hot name, another hot name, just like Tony Pollard. J.K. Dobbins. I know he's been great so far, but I think if you can get a good value for him, I would let him go. He was just out carried this last week by Gus Edwards, 18-17, and he's getting no involvement in the passing game. I get that he's averaging like a crazy 6 yards per carry, but this has also been in 2 straight games where they can just run the ball and win the game. They have not had a lead. So I think he's a great sell right now. Some players I would sell Dobbins for if I can. I would sell him straight up for Mike Evans. If you can get Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison, I would. You probably won't. You probably have to package like a J.K. Dobbins and Amari Cooper. You can probably get one of them, and I would do something like that. I would trade J.K. Dobbins straight up for Ayuk, especially with these injuries to McCaffrey, Debo, and then now that Kittle is potentially injured. I would trade him straight up for Ayuk, and then I would also trade J.K. Dobbins if I could get like a Amari Cooper and a David Montgomery. What do you guys think on that?
I am holding J.K. Dobbins. I don't really think I'm going to be selling him. I think he's a great player, man. Like he has 250 attempts and he's averaging like 5-6 yards a carry, as we mentioned in the last podcast. So he's good, man. And coming off the amount of injuries he has to do what he's doing is really, really impressive. And I think he's only going to get stronger. We see this offensive line, Joe Alt is, their rookie tackle, I believe, or guard. And he is crazy, man. He is so good at NFL, at his job. So I think that this offensive line is gelling and that they're going to just be solid. And I'm holding J.K. Dobbins. I think he is a league winner, and I firmly believe that. And yeah, man, I'm not looking to sell J.K. Dobbins right now.
Yeah, I'm a hold, and it just depends on what I can get for J.K. Dobbins. If I can get Mike Evans for J.K. Dobbins, I would do that. If I can get J.K. Dobbins for Marv or Neighbors, I would do that. But that's going to be extremely hard. I would honestly probably do J.K. Dobbins for Monty too, just straight up. I like Monty's offense more and the offensive line more. I know like the Chargers offensive line is good, but I think I would most likely be holding J.K. Dobbins unless like the right trade opportunity came my way, and then I'd be willing to sell him.
So you guys are both holding Dobbins, and then I'm the seller.
Yeah, I have a quick questions for you guys. Rest of season outlook, are we going J.K. Dobbins or are we going Ramondre Stevenson?
I would go Dobbins. Stevenson, I mean, we just saw him. He just put up negative 0.7. Just with how this Patriots offense is, I think they're both bad offenses, but I think I'm going to ride with I forget the Harbaugh. What is it, Jim or John? Which one is it?
It's Jim.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. I think he wants to run the ball. He's shown that the first 2 weeks of the season. 35 carries last week with Gus Edwards and Dobbins combined. So yeah, I would probably stick with J.K. Dobbins on that one.
I'll probably go Stevenson because just the amount of volume. Like he can, not saying J.K. Dobbins can't catch the ball, but Stevenson can catch the ball. He can run, and just they paid him. I think they're going to probably just run him into the ground. So I think the amount of volume that Stevenson's going to get is going to be way more than Dobbins. I think that's why he's kind of going to be more like fantasy relevant.
Yeah, definitely. One more for you guys. J.K. Dobbins or Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones. I'd go Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones better. And the Vikings offenses look good. So, and I feel that Isaiah is going to completely disagree with me here.
I'm more J.K. Dobbins than Aaron Jones. I mean, I like Aaron Jones, but if J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy, J.K. Dobbins is younger. I mean, he's dealt with injuries, but Aaron Jones is just an older kind of back. Doesn't really have that same like explosiveness as like J.K. Dobbins does. So I'd probably lean towards more J.K. Dobbins. And Ty Chandler has kind of came alive in that backfield. I know he's kind of been there. He had 10 carries for like 82 yards last game. So I feel like I feel like Aaron Jones can slowly start losing his job to touch handler, and I feel like J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are mainly going to be the two backs on that team.
Yeah, after being said that, I would take J.K. over both the players I mentioned, over Ramondre and over Aaron Jones. I'm a believer in J.K., man. But anyways, moving on to Isaiah's sell. It's gonna be a shocker, but Isaiah's sell.
Yeah, mine's CMC, and this is just for how injuries have been and what's going on around the league. I am a Christian McCaffrey fan, but he was the first overall pick. He's been hurt now for the last 2 months, coming up, I think, close to 3 months now at this point. And with all the injuries going on, and to say if you're losing or you have, you're low on running back or you're low on receivers, I think now would be the time to sell CMC. You can probably get like a 2-for-1. Like I say, I'm like, say if you get a Tony Pollard and like a George Pickens, I know like that'll be kind of hard, but I think in the long run, especially winning now when it kind of matters most, because you're trying to make it to the playoffs, I think that would boost your team up, especially with all the injuries going on. So I am a sell on Christian McCaffrey. I think it just depends on how your team. If you can leave him on your bench and till he comes back healthy, do so. If you're losing, if you're low on running backs or wide receivers, I think you should sell them. Like I think a good sell would be like the Mason owner, because they have Mason. And I think Mason's going to be good, and it's just like you don't want I think even when CMC comes back, I feel like he's not going to be the full 100% himself. I feel like Mason's going to get a little bit more work than we've seen them in the past, with how the Niners have used running backs in the past. So I think I'm just a sell on CMC. But again, it just depends on how your team is built and what's going on with your team and everything. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's just your positioning. Your positioning. If you're 0-2 with McCaffrey, you're starting to get worried. It's still early, but he's not going to be back for probably 6 weeks, I would say. I think that's probably a reasonable time estimate. But if I'm 2-0 and I have like George Pickens and like Aaron Jones on the bench, or like DJ Moore and Dave Montgomery, and they're just on my bench, and I'm the first place team, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to invest later in the season. I might take a little loss now, but having him in the long run, I mean, obviously we all know Christian McCaffrey is the best player in fantasy football. So I think, yeah, it just depends on your position.
Yeah, I would say that if you are a McCaffrey owner and you are a Jordan Mason owner, do not sell McCaffrey. Do not sell McCaffrey, because then you're just monopolizing the Niners backfield there. But it's positioning. If you're 2-0, try to buy McCaffrey. If you're 2-0 with McCaffrey, hold him. If you're 0-2 with McCaffrey, sell him. If you're 0-2 with McCaffrey and Mason, hold them. Those are just kind of the way I look at it. Would you guys, if you have McCaffrey and you're 0-2, would you sell CMC for David Montgomery and a receiver like George Pickens?
I think I would. If my team was hurt, my team was lacking, I think I would sell McCaffrey for 2-for-1 easily to help me boost my team up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would too. I think I just like Dave Montgomery. I mean, he's had a touchdown in 20 out of his last 23 games throughout the last 2 seasons. So he's going to get you the touchdown pretty much. We saw what Dan Campbell does. And we saw Gibbs get a little more goal line work, but ultimately Dave Montgomery's going to get you a touchdown every week. So yeah, I think it's a good sell.
Yeah, and then just one more question for you guys. When it comes to rest of season rankings, are we ranking Christian McCaffrey or Jahmyr Gibbs higher?
That's a tough one, but I'd still say Christian McCaffrey. You can't not rank Christian McCaffrey higher, in my opinion.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's
a good
Christian
one.
McCaffrey. I'd go Gibbs because he's playing. That's like, and his, yeah, I'd say Gibbs. I think Gibbs.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The reason I asked that is because I was wondering it too. I wonder who's better. But I would be saying Gibbs too, just because I like the Lions offense, and I want to get exposure to that. But anyways, moving on to the final sell player of today's episode, and it's going to be a sell high, and it's going to be Rashid Shaheed, the wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. We see the Saints dropping 40 points in the first 2 weeks, 40-plus points, and I do not see this keeping up. Rashid Shaheed is that deep threat for Derek Carr. We've seen 2 deep 70-yard touchdowns to Rashid Shaheed, and that's not going to happen every week. He is getting a little bit more involvement. He's getting like a Jameson Williams type treatment. I can see them being very, very comparable. But I just think that I would rather have Jameson Williams than Rashid Shaheed because of their offense. Obviously, the Saints looks great, but I'm not fully bought into the Saints being this elite. I think they're great, but not as to what they're doing right now. So I think just capitalizing on Shaheed's value right now, he's pretty high value. So, I mean, a couple players I would sell Shaheed for. If I'm selling high, man, I'm looking for these players. I'm looking for Drake London, Tank Dell. This is a little, not as super high, but I would even say Xavier Worthy with my belief that the Chiefs are going to throw the ball even more. And then George Pickens, as I mentioned before, I would do Rashid Shaheed for all of these guys. What do you guys think about that?
Just going over some of your players you said that you would trade for. I would not trade for Xavier Worthy. I do not think Xavier Worthy is going to be good. There's a stat, his expected fantasy points each week through the first 2 weeks were 6 points. And I don't think he's going to get the volume, even with, Pacheco went down. I don't think he's going to get the volume, but who else did you say? You said Worthy. I would sell him for Pickens.
London and Dell.
Oh, yeah, for sure would sell for London. I mean, I'm a London truther, and I would not sell for Dell. I also don't believe in Dell. I don't think he's going to be that good. I mean, he's a great player, but I just think Nico Collins eats up a lot of that volume.
Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about Shaheed. Like the last 2 games, he had only 4 targets. My concern would be why does someone be his volume, but they've just been blowing teams out. So it'd be he doesn't need more than 4 targets, and he's still been putting up numbers. So I mean, I think if I can sell it, I think if I'm not a London fan, but if I can sell Shaheed for London, I think I would do that, just because London really is the only pass catcher on that team. Shaheed still has Olave there. Dell, I don't know. Dell will be a toss up, but I think Shaheed. I think I'm kind of a hold at the same. I'm more of a hold. I think on Shaheed, just seeing how he does. He's saying he's only had 4 targets last 2 games. He's caught all 4 balls. He has 8 catches this season. So I think that we had to see him in a close game. Both games have been blowouts. I think Shaheed could do more in this offense. We can see in the Niners offense, we can see Debo and Ayuk put up points. This can be, Shaheed and Chris Olave both putting up points the same week. Not saying, they're as good as Ayuk and Debo, but in this offense and how, all the motions going on, I think Shaheed can still be pretty good. A good flex play at least. That's why I think he's a hold.
A quick question for you guys one more time. I'm going to name 4 receivers, and I just want you guys to tell me your thoughts on ranking them. So we got Rashid Shaheed, Jaden Reed, Zay Flowers, and Calvin Ridley. Where are you guys looking with those 4 receivers?
All right, let's do a cumulative rankings. I think that's what it is. So let's do our 4 rankings. I would say Zay Flowers 1. What do you guys think on that?
Yeah, I put Zay Flowers at 1 as well.
Yeah, I was gonna see either him. I know Jaden Reed loves out, but I think it'd be a toss between him.
Yeah,
and Jaden Reed and Zay Flowers. But I'm fine with Zay Flowers being 1.
Yeah, I think that Jaden Reed is a number 2 though, personally.
I
could agree. I could agree. Number 2 with Love, with Malik Willis, he's a 4. With Malik Willis, he's a 4. But if Love's back, I would rank him at 2 as well.
100%. And then when it comes to Calvin Ridley and Rashid Shaheed, where are you guys going with that?
It's tough. It's tough to say because all these receivers are pretty much like the same. So far, me personally, I would probably go Rashid Shaheed at 3, and then I
Yeah.
would rank Calvin Ridley 4. Back to your topic, what you're saying, I think the opposite. I actually think Rashid Shaheed's a buy. I mean, they just went up against the Cowboys defense who put up a bunch of points week 1, and if he can do that good, especially with the Saints looking great, I think Rashid Shaheed is a solid flex spot. I'd still rank him as a wide receiver 3 just because he's had those 2 big play upsides the last 2 weeks. But yeah, those would be my rankings. What do you guys think on that?
I don't know, man. I think it's a
Yeah.
toss up. I'm a Ridley guy, as we know. So right now, I'm just gonna say, from my belief, I'm just gonna say Ridley, and then Shaheed, but I think it's really close. Isaiah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think as of right now, how they're both playing, I think I'm going Shaheed over Ridley. And I like the offense more right now for the Saints than I do for the Titans. And that's another. I think that'd play a kind of a role where Derek Carr is playing good. So I think I'm going Shaheed.
Okay, and then just like a couple more quick questions. Rest of the season, would you guys rather have Bijan Robinson or Brees Hall?
Brees Hall. I'm still
Yeah,
going Brees Hall.
Let's just do some quick fire. Not too much explanation. Bijan or Brees? Rest of the
Brees.
season.
Brees.
Would you guys rather have David Montgomery and George Kittle or Bijan Robinson? If you are in need of a tight end,
I mean, it
obviously.
depends on my team, man. I'm going Bijan though. I'm taking the better player.
Yeah. If I need a tight end, I'd say the Montgomery and Kittle, but I think Bijan. I'm still leaning towards Bijan.
Kyler Murray or Patrick Mahomes?
Kyler.
As of right now, Kyler.
Yeah, those are mine. You guys got any
I got
questions?
one. I got one more. James Conner or Kyron Williams?
James Conner. You got to go James Conner. I like the big play upside. I think Kyron has that big play upside, but if I'm playing the safe route, I'd go Conner. He just has that floor every week. And just they put up points.
I'd take Connor. I think after the bye, I think Kyron after their bye week 6, I think Connor's gonna or not Connor. I think Connor's gonna be not. Geez Louise. I think Kyron is going to be way better after the Rams bye week when some of the players come back healthy and they actually have their team and they're not just a team full of practice squad players.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I would take Connor over Kyron. But you guys have any more questions for us?
I'll do one.
All right.
Nico Collins rest of the season or Chris Godwin rest of the season?
I mean, I think that's a pretty dumb question to say. I know Chris Godwin's been going off, but I would 100% go Nico Collins.
I would go Nico Collins, but no shame to Chris Godwin. I've been trying to trade for Chris Godwin. He's going to be one of my buy highs. I would buy him high right now. On that note, would you guys rather have Chris Godwin or Malik Neighbors?
Godwin.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm leaning Neighbors. I just really like Neighbors, as we know from past podcasts. But
Taylor or Gibbs?
Taylor.
I'm going Taylor.
Really?
I am just Taylor had 12 carries for 108 yards, man. Yeah, I'm going Taylor.
So, but what did Gibbs have? Gibbs had last game. He had 13 carries for 84 yards. I mean, I guess he's still not as good as Taylor, but I think I'm more Gibbs. I'm more of a Gibbs fan. I like how Gibbs plays.
I think that's all we got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is definitely one of our more funny videos and unique videos with Alex eating that jalapeno.
Entertaining.
So we hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next week. See you guys.
Peace.